became a career firefighter with the Howard County Department of Fire and Rescue Service, the chief of the medical division, or EMS, the unofficial historian of the Howard County Department of Fire and Rescue Services. Over 65,000 digital images and newspaper articles, magazine articles, etc. But for the grace of God, close calls. In Howard County, over the years, unfortunately, we've had 3 incidents in which we lost fire service personnel in operations, fireground operations. The first situation, or unfortunate situation, was December 25th, 1953, when 2 firefighters lost their lives, actually Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, due to a chimney collapse on Columbia Pike just outside of Ellicott City. Charles Ditch and Joseph Stigler were the 2 individuals that lost their lives that particular day. Then July 20th of 1969, in western Howard County, we had a very serious thunderstorm come through. Units from Lisbon were responding to a barn fire. Vehicle spun out on Muddy Street and crashed, taking the lives of 3 firefighters: Robert Clarley, William Brightwell, and Raymond Miles. Those 3 individuals lost their lives due to that motor vehicle accident. And then on July 23rd, 2018, Howard County had a house fire in the Clarksville area, in which a firefighter was battling a McMansion fire, that's huge house fire, when he fell through the floor and died from his injuries in the basement, and that was Nathan Flynn. Now, I talk about the fatalities that we've had in operations, but also we had close calls that occurred over the years, and I was able to get some photos of each of those. And there have been many other close calls. In fact, those of you who see this video, if you had any other bona fide close calls in which firefighters almost lost their lives, please let me know, and I can do a subsequent podcast on that. But anyway, I have 4 incidents in which firefighters nearly lost their lives in firefighting operations. The first occurred in the fall of 1971. Ellicott City Fire Department was responding to a chimney fire, basically a routine chimney fire, at a single-family dwelling off of Melville Road in the Mount Hebron area. Units responded and were getting ready. They were going to use standard operating procedures. They were going to throw a 35-foot extension ladder up to the peak of the roof. 2-story house, but by the time the ladder was thrown to the peak of the roof, that is essentially a 3rd story. Firefighter Jimmy Jett was assigned to go up the 35-foot ladder with a roof ladder over his shoulder to go to the very peak of the structure, and then climb onto the very peak of the building and do his firefighting activities. As he reached the peak of the roof, again, essentially 3 stories up, the top fly, or the top section of the ladder, suddenly retracted down about 10 feet, 15 feet, threw him off the ladder. And the picture that you're looking at is showing Jimmy Jett in midair. You can pick out the reflective markings on his turnout coat. He's still holding on to the ladder, and he's in mid-flight, falling down 3 stories to the ground below. I just happened to be walking up to the fire scene when I heard the commotion. I took 3 pictures in rapid succession. The one you're looking at caught him in midair. I went running towards him, and I got him on the second picture I took, which I don't have right now, but I got him on his first bounce off to the ground. And then the last picture, as I was getting next to his side, was him collapse on the ground. But this is something that, as I said, fell 3 stories, and it was due to an improperly thrown ladder. The top dogs, latches, or they call them dogs, were not properly latched, and as he's just getting off the ladder, it gave way and threw him to the ground 3 stories below. I ended up taking him to the hospital in the ambulance. He ended up having a fractured sternum and was off work for about a month, but came back to full duty. But he was very, very lucky. And a 3-story fall, as many of you know, can be very injuring and if not fatal. So we dodged the bullet on that particular call. Then in July 20th of 1982, we had a major townhouse fire on Vantage Point Road in West Columbia, near the Columbia Mall. Townhouse caught on fire, and I believe the fire went to 3 alarms, but it was a townhouse fire that was, in fire service vernacular, it was really rocking. The first image that we're looking at is from the front of the building, and you can see heavy smoke is coming from the front of the building. Now, the front of the building was a 2-story structure, and yet when you walked around to the back of the structure, had a walkout basement, which meant the backside was a 3-story structure. But as you can see, rather thick smoke is billowing out. Firefighters are making an attack. One pair of firefighters made their way into the building, made their way up to the 2nd floor and to a 2nd floor bedroom that had the sliding glass doors. They went up, I believe, without the benefit of a hose line, I believe. They went up and were going to ventilate, open up the 3rd floor. They opened the sliding glass doors on the 3rd floor. And when that happened, an immediate chimney effect occurred. In other words, there is now a natural current coming from the front door into the structure, up the steps, and then going out the sliding glass door. And these firefighters were trapped. Heavy smoke, heavy fire, heavy heat. The next image you're seeing, that's the structure on the back side of the building. You can see there's smoke and fire coming out of the 2nd floor and 3rd floor windows. The far window on the 3rd floor is where the 2 firefighters were trapped. When this photo was taken, they are still in the building, trapped on the 3rd floor. I believe they were calling for assistance, I believe. Shortly thereafter, and as you can see, the 3rd floor is heavy fire. The firefighters actually came out the window to the left. This is actually after they evacuated from the building, but they came out the window to the left. And again, another picture showing the fire building on the backside, and the firefighters came out the window on the left. A story of heroism with this is that Captain Howard Massey, with the Elk City Fire Department, had responded and made his way around to the rear of the building, saw the 2 firefighters hanging their heads out that 3rd-story window, and they were trapped. Captain Massey went back around to the front of the building, took a roof ladder, brought that around to the rear of the building, threw it up similar to what you're seeing on the photo here, leaned it against the porch. He climbed up on the porch, took the ladder up to the porch, and then actually put the ladder up against the window to the left, that the 2 firefighters were able to come down to the ground, to the porch, and down to the ground. Had it not been for him, it's very doubtful what the outcome would have been. In this photo right here, the firefighters have just been evacuated. They have come out of the window to the porch and then down to the ground. The injured firefighters are there on the sort of the center left. Both of them suffered rather serious burns and have just made it safely down to the ground, but with severe burns. And firefighters are there also but are assisting them. And firefighter Dave Miller, that you see in this particular picture, he was the medic on the backside and sort of took command of the patient care of the 2 firefighters, Bob Wiseman and firefighter McKeever. Both of them were taken down to the city burn center with substantial burns. They were hospitalized for several weeks, but both returned to duty. And just a brief news clip, as you can see, just the 6 firefighters were injured in that particular fire. 2 of them were trapped on the 3rd floor, and the other 4 firefighters, John Bentley, Rick McCulley, Jeff Hazard, and William Overby, all received minor injuries associated with that fire. But that's a second incident there where we were just very, very lucky that the firefighters who were trapped on the 3rd floor were able to summon help, and Captain Howard Massey from Elk City had the presence of mind to quickly get a roof ladder, and as I said, put it to the first floor porch and then drag that up, and the firefighters were able to escape coming down that ladder. The next incident that came very, very, very close to losing 2 firefighters happened on November 14th, 1984, at one of the major building fires, conflagrations in Main Street of Ellicott City. And we've had, the county has had 3, 4, 5, or 6 of those incidents. This particular one occurred, as I said, on November 14th, 1984. Heavy fire on Main Street. Actually, a lot of the fire was at Leidy's Bakery, which was a place to go to get fine pastries, donuts, etc. And the fire started and burnt on units on either side. Again, we're looking at the fire building. Where the firefighters were ultimately trapped will be that dark window that you see in the center of the picture. There's another window above that, and that's where the firefighters were trapped on the 3rd floor, running out of air. I don't believe they had a hose line with them, but shortly after this picture was taken, the conditions on that 3rd floor became untenable, and they were searching for a way to get out of the building. And again, we're looking, you can see the sign in the center, the orange sign, that was Leidy's Bakery. Directly over top of that, near the top of the picture, was a window on the 3rd floor, but there's a window just to the left, and that's where the firefighters, and that was the room that the firefighters were in and were trapped. Again, just another picture, scanning backwards. As you can see, heavy smoke on that particular building, and heavy smoke and different colored smoke on the right. I think that was a Photoshop, so I'm sure they had some nasty chemicals in there that were burning. When you see 2 different color smoke, that's just not a good sign. So anyway, so the 2 firefighters were trapped on the 3rd floor. Again, another picture. On the 3rd floor, the windows just to the left, on the left side, that's where the firefighters were trapped. I think they're wearing breathing apparatus, but they're running out of air. I think one of the firefighters tried to yell down on the street to say, hey, we're in trouble. We need assistance. Between just all the chatter that was going on down on the ground floor, on the street, and the engine noise, etc., they were not heard. I believe it was firefighter first class Ronnie Redmond had the presence of mind to take his helmet off and throw it down on the ground. And when firefighters saw that, to them, that was a clue that a firefighter was in trouble, and they looked up to the 3rd floor, and indeed they saw 2 firefighters that were trapped up on the 3rd floor, and the only way out was to come out that window. They were getting ready, the 2 firefighters were getting ready to come out that window one way or the other, with assistance or without, and they were prepared to jump from the 3rd floor to the ground to get away from the heat, the smoke, etc. Fortunately, as this was just occurring, Baltimore County's engine, I don't remember the unit number, but the engine was a squirt. That was a 40 to 55 foot telescoping small ladder with a high volume nozzle on the end. They were just bringing it into position, coincidentally, when the call went out that these 2 firefighters were trapped and needed to get down on the ground. And as I said, they were getting ready to come out regardless of whether there's a ladder there or not. Now, that's how bad the conditions were. And as we can see right here, that squirt just coincidentally was brought into position. The firefighter sort of in the center with a hood on the back of his head, he's coming out head first onto the ladder. Fortunately, 3 firefighters were there to assist him. Brian Moe, who is actually on the squirt itself, Bill Robinson, and Kenny Crosswhite are the 3 firefighters on the ladder, catching Charlie Massey, or Chuck Massey, as he dove out the window. You can see the knees and feet of the 2nd firefighter, Ronnie Redmond, sitting patiently in the windowsill, waiting for his turn to get the heck out of the building. Moments after this photograph was taken, Chuck Massey was able to get down to the ground, and Ronnie Redmond was able to make his way to the ladder and down to safety. Again, another situation that another 60 seconds or so, we would be talking about either 2 more fatalities or 2 serious injuries if they indeed had to jump from that 3rd floor window. And again, this is just a sort of a close-up picture of Ronnie Redmond sitting patiently. I say that sitting patiently in the windowsill, waiting for rescue. This particular incident is one at one of our infamous intersections in the county, Route 175 and Route 95, specifically the Route 95 northbound ramp to Route 175. And this has been the scene of many an accident, many a fatal accident over the years. On this particular day, October 3rd, 1989, units were responding to a building collapse, a major building collapse on Route 1. Howard County Medic 9 and Howard County Amos 95 out of the Long Reach station were responding. And as they were responding, they approached this infamous intersection. Medic 9 was in the lead by a quarter mile. It approached the intersection. There's heavy traffic coming off the ramp. Everyone appeared to have stopped on the ramp. In the left-hand lane is two lanes approaching the intersection there, controlled by a traffic light. In the left-hand lane was a tractor trailer. In the left-hand lane, the operator of Medic 9, a Bronco, carefully proceeded through the intersection, but unbeknownst to him, the light was green for the ramp. He slowly proceeded through. He could not see around the tractor trailer, and as he slowly proceeded into the intersection, a car that, for all intents and purposes, had the right-of-way because the driver was looking at the green light, doing 60, 70 miles an hour, T-boned into Medic 9. Medic 9 rolled, oh my goodness gracious, 100 yards or so. It kept rolling and rolling until it made contact with this pole. After it made contact with the pole, the right rear axle was snapped. The impact caused the transformer on the pole to come down, crashing to the ground. And again, this is just another picture of Medic 9 on its side. The vehicle that you see just past Medic 9, a little bit in the distance, I only reference that because equipment flew out of Medic 9 and down to that vehicle and past it. So it was a fair distance between the impact and where the equipment was thrown to. There's a big committee that met afterwards, and as usually things do after major incidents, to assess the situation and also to assess the damage to the vehicle. A committee met for, a week, and they finally concluded by a close vote of, I think it was 3-2, that this vehicle was totaled. That's just a wild guess, but the vehicle was totaled. The irony with this, the operator, Gary Chandler, paramedic, was taken to the hospital with some moderate injuries. I had gone to the hospital to see him immediately after the accident and came in, and I was talking with him. And one of the first things that he said to me when I walked in, he said, "Chief, I'm just telling you that I was proceeding slowly, I had my lights on, the siren on, and things were, I was doing everything according to, protocol. And the other thing was I was wearing my seatbelt. Until then, in a private vehicle, I usually didn't wear a seatbelt, but always at work, I wore a seatbelt. And I know that saved my life that day." And I looked at him and I decided, now's not the time to tell him. And what I was going to tell him was, on the day that he got hit and he started to roll sideways over and over again, and he was destined to hit that pole, he had a 1 in 4 chance of surviving. Meaning, had he hit the roof, had he hit either the left or right side, you can see the damage that was caused on the bottom of the vehicle. That's where the steel frame is, the strongest part of the vehicle. And as you can see, that was bent horrendously. Had he impacted on any of the other 3 sides, he would have immediately crushed to death and killed. Lying in the hospital bed, when he was certainly happy that he was wearing a seatbelt, I figured now is not the time to tell him that seatbelt didn't save his life that day. And as so many occasions, it was luck that saved his life that day. And those of us in public safety, fire, police, EMS, We all know of many times that luck allowed us to go home the next day. And I do believe that's it. So I conclude until next time, please use your remaining heartbeats wisely and not waste a single precious one.